Today, we will walk through several interesting use cases together. We will be using DNSDB Scout with flexible search, the functionality we recently announced on 20th of October 2020. And the first use case would be us being law enforcement officers trying to tackle and investigate airline fraud. Airline fraud was a very difficult issue to tackle until 79 were arrested and worldwide crackdown on that fraud. And that announcement you can find on Europol website. The fraud scheme was relatively simple. The criminals were buying airline tickets with stolen credit card numbers and then they resell it online with name changing, which was allowed at that time. As you can see from the report, the issue was costing airlines over $1 billion a year. So what can we do and how we can use flexible search for this type of investigation? Retrospectively, how would criminals sell their goods? Of course, they blast some spam and they will lure people to come to their websites or through search engines. In this case, they need to find some ways for people to go to their websites looking for tickets. And this is exactly what we will be looking for. We will be looking for, let's say, two of these airlines, part of Star Alliance, Lufthansa or Swiss Air, and we will be looking for host names which would contain these two, either of these, with tickets or cheap or sale in their host names. And this is definitely would be a regular expression, as you can see. And we will be looking back through our oldest and largest passive DNS database in the world. First, we'll say we would see something would be after, let's say 2013, January 1st midnight. And ending our search before the crackdown has happened, 2019, November 27, end of the day. Let's check. 27th November 19, when it was an announcement. Everything else looks good, and we execute our search. What we expect to see? Obviously, Lufthansa or Swiss Air would not create sites which would have this ticket cheap and sale in the host names. They have well publicized and known website of their flagship web presence, and everything else potentially might be quite suspicious. We found 17 results within that time frames, and let's go and inspect it. Lufthansa, cheap tickets, Netherlands. So definitely looks suspicious. Another one is in .ru. It says Aviacompagnia Lufthansa cheap bileti.ru. What it says is airline Lufthansa cheap tickets.ru. It could be one of the candidates for investigation or second one, and so on. Let's click on this one. What Scout does is that it executes standard search with that name in, and it tells us what the domain that particular host is served by and the IP address of that host. What we can do, we can go and inspect the neighborhood, meaning what are other domains or hosts are served by this IP. And we found a lot. We can go and inspect whether anything of this would be worth of our attention. It's quite many. Perhaps it is an IP of some of the maybe a cloud provider or hosting provider, and we have quite a lot of those. Some potentially could be benign, some others would be suspicious. As a law enforcement investigating officers, we definitely would need to go and dig deeper. What else can we do? There is another way to understand the neighborhood of a specific host name or domain. For example, we may ask a question, what are other domains are being hosted on a specific domain name server? We'll go again, click on the same record, but instead of investigating neighborhood of this specific IP, we will find a name server for this domain first, and then we will construct a query asking what are other domains use this name server. And there are plenty of those, 5,000 within our limit here. We also can go and investigate those domains if necessary and form our view and opinion about whether this activity is benign, legal, or malicious. As you can understand, the number of queries you would need to execute can rise relatively quickly, and that would require automation because using graphic interface is not necessarily the most efficient way to execute a large number of queries. For that, you would need to use the command line utilities and do some scripting or query the API directly. To learn that, the Scout will give you some facilities to do so. If you look in the executed query, you would see what Scout has been using to execute your query and how the query has been constructed. So you can use this learning to do either coding to query API or do the scripting with command line utilities. To summarize, what have we done? We constructed a regular expression which we believe could reveal some malicious activity we are looking for. In this particular case, we were looking at the airline fraud, acting as law enforcement officers and investigation officers. And we executed those queries and we dug into the IP infrastructure as well as in domain infrastructure and neighborhood to get a feel of maliciousness and badness of our findings.